Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Louis D'Souza and Amy Blackbird. Today is Monday, July the 20th, 2020. It's 4 p.m. New York time. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And Louis is still beaming about his appearance before the stream last Tuesday, although he says he's not ready for a return engagement. Does that mean that you got your questions answered? Is that what it was?
To a degree, yeah. I mean, I just wanted to listen to them in the background, and then, let other people have a chance. I mean, I've had mine.
Sounds great.
You went right for it, Louis. With why am I here? Where is this going?
That's me. That's me and my question. It's my lifelong question, and
absolutely,
I've gained more and more clarity along the way, and that's all I'm happy to do is gain more.
I really enjoyed the stream's answer to that. The unlimited possibilities that we all actually have when we come here. And there's the non-physical, which I think is kind of what you were addressing. If I already know everything and I'm already a part of this, what is the point of being here? Why am I here? And I really liked the answer of, the physical. We come into the physical to have all of these varying scenarios and experiences, and it adds to the pool of expansion.
Mm. And our uniqueness counts to all of that, yeah.
Absolutely.
I love how you framed it. I mean, that was like the longest framed question that we've done here on the show in weeks. I mean, it went on and on. And
well, the first thing I had to do was set a precedent. I didn't know, because I haven't listened to the stream often enough, how much they agreed with Abraham Hicks' teachings.
Sure.
So I needed to create the platform, because I'd love to talk immediately from the Abraham Hicks platform and not start asking questions right from the beginning again. So
I really appreciated that you did that, especially for those of us that already know Abraham Hicks and have been following Abraham and Esther Hicks. Just, it sets that foundation for people to understand where you're coming from, the question that you're asking, and how in alignment is the stream and the channel, David, with that vocabulary and that mindset. So I really enjoyed also hearing the stream's answer, because we all really do have the ability to channel. So I don't really have any questions necessarily for the stream, because I go directly to my own higher self. I go directly into that kind of channeled state for myself, and have learned to do that after listening to channeling for so long. It just comes really naturally for me.
That's great, too, because that's ultimately the best kind of conversation, the one that you're having internally, and you know you can trust it. That, for me, has been the challenge all along. Can I really trust what seems to be going on inside?
Well, and for me, I just developed varying ways of listening to my higher self. So it wasn't just one way, hearing a voice in my head. It was through card readings or getting certain messages at certain times. And it seemed like the more I recognized it was my higher self and said it, it developed the relationship more. It's kind of like a best friendship. I try and compare it that way, because the more you acknowledge this presence, the more it really does present itself to you.
Yeah, sure. And it is your best friend. I mean, is there a better friend, really?
I mean, Walt and I were chatting afterwards, and I was, he was saying to me, I can see that you may find another mentor or somebody else to guide, etc. And I said, no, at this stage, I really want to do what you're doing, Amy. I want to go to my source, because I know my source has the specific answers for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're already there. I tell this to a lot of friends that I can hear them transitioning from, they were listening to teachers and they've learned everything that they can from that particular teacher, whoever that is. For us, we're talking about Abraham Hicks right now. But all of a sudden I will notice in the middle of a very high vibration conversation where they flip. There's like a switch that goes off that they're not even cognitive of, where they are, it no longer sounds like them. I can tell they are channeling their higher self. And I think people are already doing that.
I've often said to Walt, I don't reference Abraham Hicks much anymore at all, because I am their teaching.
Yes.
It's not like I'm needing them for guidance or I go to them, they're a go-to place, etc. It's now I've taken all their philosophy, I'm living it,
Yes.
and I can't imagine Abraham Hicks thinking anything else from somebody who's at that position than fantastic, great, go off and teach and share. Do it in your own way and share your own way. And that's all I ever wanted, and don't ever come back. I don't need you, you know.
That's perfectly put, you know, because I actually quit listening. I want to say it was probably about 2 years ago. I was listening every day when I had that job I told you about, where I basically feel like I switched parallel realities. And I was really getting a grip on what this meant to be in the vortex and to apply it and experiment with it. And then it got to the point where I would only have to listen to maybe one video a day. And then it was once a week. And then it was once a month. And I did check back in when the COVID challenge hit us. Just
and
to
all you heard
find
was
out
more of
what
the same.
Just wanted to hear what Abraham had to say. And I was comparing it to other teachers that I've been listening to over the years, and all of them were saying the same exact thing. So it was very reassuring. 2 days later is when my friend Chuck told me about this podcast, and I tune in, and Walt is pretty much saying exactly what I was already feeling, and all of these teachers had already said, and now here's Walt coming along. I've never heard him speak before. And that's when I was like, I need to contact this show. Because
like
you're
me,
so
I
correct.
think I listened to one or maybe two, and then I immediately contacted Walt. I said, I want to be on the show.
It's amazing, but you're correct. Basically, once you understand the concept and you're applying it so much, you don't need, it gets very redundant. You don't need to hear the videos as much.
Well, now you've got the message. The message is go out and create your own reality and enjoy it.
Yes, that's right.
And I now know how to do it. I know how to do it clearly, simply. I know how to teach it, share it, express it, live it, be it. So, you know, people don't even have to ask me. They just say, wow, what are you doing? It looks good.
Yeah.
And
as you were also noticing, manifesting things, and the stream even commented, you get so masterful at it. It's like, what's next? Now what? I want to know what the next big thing is. And
I want a new body.
Right? There's almost
this one. Give me a new one.
There's this strange feeling hearing, because we all think we're going to get to this perfect place of manifestation. We're going to have it all.
No, you get over that illusion after a while.
And I am 100%. So it's allowed me to actually be more in love with my present moment.
Of your mistakes.
Yes, because there's never going to be a moment in this body, this earth game, where everything's going to be perfect. Because once it is, I'm going to want to jet on out of here.
So Walt and I, at the same time, we will say, Richard Bach, you know, if you want to know if your mission on earth is complete, if you're alive, it isn't.
That's true.
I perfectly put.
Yeah. It is a brilliant description of what you just said and how it looks from just a different angle, but it's just, Richard Bach Illusions is an amazing book.
It's fun.
It takes the pressure off too. Instead of just looking at your life and always displacing your joy. When I get this thing, when I have this relationship, you know, there's always that next goal or marker where it's almost the definition of insanity. You're not really present or living now.
You're not present. Yes.
And
I was saying to
that.
What, Walt's laughing his head off there. What's going on?
I'm laughing at the illusion that she made. That's all right. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I was saying to Walt that, you know, I have so little desire now to change anybody or to argue with anybody's positioning or discussion or philosophy. I can see both sides of the coin. I'm happy with all of that. So I said to Walt, you know, what I've looked at is what am I? I'm a husband and I'm a father. So let me just focus on being a fun and happy father and husband and just leave the rest alone. You know, let's just bring it down to simplicity. How do you live in the moment?
Yes.
And just find a way of just being who you are. And it really is so simple. It's mind-blowing after a while. You just think, wow, all I have to be is myself.
Yeah, we make it so complicated. Like the stream was saying, we make it so much more complicated than it actually is.
I have to
you're
say
saying that a lot about the non-physical. You're saying, a lot of people make the non-physical more complicated than it is.
Yes.
And I was interested in that comment, like, non-physical, looking at it complicatedly or as something that is complicated or difficult to comprehend. Yeah, we do that, don't we?
Yeah,
We got ghosts and aliens and alternative realities. And
that
we just
part
got it
of
all,
it,
man.
I was laughing so hard at that because I too can sometimes, I don't judge other people's beliefs, but the layers of storytelling that start happening around all this stuff, it's amazing to me. But whatever works, really, whatever, as long as the belief is something that's working for you, I say go for it.
When I see people going off on these tangents like the earth is flat or talking about these different alien races that have given us all these knowledge and really go into some of these things and they do it with so much passion, I think, well, they're doing it with enjoyment. That's cool.
Right.
And, when you need to learn or focus on something else, when it's not so good anymore, you're not so happy anymore, and you want something else. And
it quits being fun. You kind of exhaust it.
Yeah. Then it's time to start looking elsewhere.
I think
my
being
brother keeps on saying
creative.
says to me, I can't wait until you come up with something else other than the law of attraction. I smiled at him and I said, well, I already have, but it's to do with the non-physical. But if we're talking about the physical universe, the law of attraction is always going to be the major factor.
Yes.
And you can't change the law. What's wrong with you?
Hey, ignorance of the law is no excuse, Walt.
What did the stream say? So there's the law of attraction and the law of polarization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now we are experiencing an extreme polarization on the planet, in our country. And that's where the emotional fatigue is coming from, is that if you're tapping into that, and like what you were saying, Louis, where you're done arguing, and that's actually a really wonderful place to be right now in these times, especially because the more you are trying to convince other people of your viewpoint is the more you're going to get sucked into that polarized.
Absolutely. Then you start getting so thrown about like a little cork in a way, thrown around in the sea. You're just completely thrown around. And
I caught myself this week going there on Facebook because I have my author group on there. And I just spent a little bit too much time looking at my news feed and I cut it off because I could feel it throwing my vibration.
Because you can feel from your emotional guidance says,
yep, it was done. I was like, okay, we're done. Time out.
That's enough. And I always put the radio on, as I've said to Walt before, just to go pick up my wife and back again. It's only like about 5 minutes. And I just want to suck in some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And, as soon as it just gets a little bit too long and I feel like, no, I'm starting to go, then I just turn it off. Get some beautiful music.
That's the control that we were talking about on our first podcast.
Just trusting your guidance. That's what it is.
Taking note when it's good contrast and it's helping out a little bit, and then when it's just too much.
You guys remind me a lot of my experience doing shows with Joel Elston. I mean, that was before your time. Joel did the show with me for quite a few years, and then he was off, and then he was back on again, and then the schedules didn't work, and so he's not on anymore. But we're still great friends. And Joel is wonderful. Joel has an interesting background because he's been through hell and back. I mean, he was homeless. He was in prison.
Wow.
Stuff. He's now an extremely successful life coach. He's been a therapist. And he's the first therapist I'd ever heard of who actually tried to combine LOA training with therapy. He has since decided that doesn't really work. He has to separate them. So he's now just a life coach. But just a fascinating guy. And he was great to have on the show for many reasons, including the reason that all I had to do was say one thing to him, and that wound him up, and that was done for the next 15 minutes. I could go take a coffee break, and he was just going on and on. The same thing is true with you guys. You just go, and I love it. I mean,
but it's not because you're winding us up.
No, we're wound up.
It doesn't take a lot. It's like one question. Okay, there you go. You're done.
Oh, I love it.
It's fabulous.
It's a wonderful way to start my Mondays. I decided I was going to start, due to this whole Facebook moment I decided I'm going to start posting one thing I'm appreciative for each day.
Oh, good for you.
Just so I can put a post out there, but something that I'm appreciative of. And today my post was, being invited to be a host on Mondays with you all. Because I can't think of really a better way for me to start my week than focusing in this way. It's really interesting. It's something that I already do every day, but having this to look forward to and something that I'm participating in and having this dialogue with you all and then your listeners is just really exciting. And it's a new element in my life that I'm really enjoying.
Oh, Mondays are wonderful now. They were not wonderful for me before I did the podcast, but after I started doing it every single day, Monday through Friday, Mondays became wonderful.
You're like, all right, I'm ready to do this.
Yeah. And
So,
I'm not even sure. I think Louie is probably like, what's her name? The Dowager Countess in Downton Abbey. What is a weekend? He's kind of the same way with Mondays, I think, but I could be wrong about that.
I don't think I've watched it, Simon, but out of that.
I threw it allude yet if you didn't know. Sorry.
So Amy, I had I don't know how I bumped into him, but it was an online mentor. He said he's giving some free lessons. So I jumped on.
Okay.
An American guy, and he said to me, one of the things I'm going to ask you to do is just email me something you're grateful for. So, I'm grateful for my wife, grateful for my family, grateful.
Sure.
And then I thought, it's not quite doing it. So I've got to find out what I'm really grateful for. So something bad happened and I learned from it. And I said, I'm really grateful for this terrible situation because I expanded from it. And he immediately emailed me back. He said, Louis, you're one of the few people who have ever given me a negative that has exploded into a positive. When it comes to appreciation. And he says, I love it. This is a great sign of advancement. I said, oh, nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have the left side, have the right side.
But I think it's an important point for people to understand,
It is extremely important.
That contrast is great. It's good.
Yes.
It's what you came here for. Like, play with it, guys. Enjoy it. Appreciate it, but understand what it is,
And the more you go through those experiences, because I have definitely gotten to the place where I'm not even going to call it a negative experience. I have an experience and it may cause pain, angst, whatever it brings up, it triggers inside of me. And I allow myself to have the emotion, but I very quickly understand how this works and that it's something to propel me forward. So my mind immediately, after I have my human response to it, that higher self just moves.
You have even a higher human response afterwards.
It's amazing because
it's a specific point I'm making there.
Yeah. A higher human response.
Yes. You see, we keep on dehumanizing the law of attraction and spirituality as something that's out there.
Yeah, I don't think that at all.
And when you get to really grasping it, what you're saying and what I can really feel, you're not just talking about it. You're really knowing what you're saying. You really understand that expansion. And I haven't met a lot of people that truly get it. And to me, you're a great example of somebody who really gets that.
Thank you, Louis. I agree with you too. It's being able to talk about it in this way. Once you do get really an understanding of it, you understand all of it is valid. Everything that you're experiencing is valid. And
everything that everybody else is experiencing is valid.
Yes. Right. So you're not trying to rearrange things. I had an experience about a year ago where I had the opportunity, I got challenged in a way that allowed me to really understand that concept of what you're saying. Instead of me being offended and being angry with someone for not behaving the way that I wanted them to, I understood the bigger equation, which was also allowing someone else to be who they are. And I'm still allowed to have my own boundaries with that. And so it was a way of I was able to feel pain and all of these emotions and these contrasting emotions very quickly come to this kind of higher human perspective on it and apply it immediately to not only give myself relief, but to kind of take this. It was just a very charged situation in my life and just put a cap on it. And it really put me in the power seat. And I've been really applying that. So this happened around my birthday last year in May. And
it really throws those individuals, doesn't it? Like,
Oh, yes.
And they react like that. What's going on? Who's this person?
Because I'm a big communicator, as you can tell. So I will write a letter and communicate or talk verbally. And sometimes people cannot handle that. And I've learned I'm not going to change who I am to make people more comfortable. That isn't my job. I'm not doing it in a rude way. I'm just not going
You're
to.
You're just working with your strengths, and my strength
Right.
and your strength are similar. We're both verbal.
Yes.
You get me to write something and I want to cringe and crawl under the table.
Oh, well, I'm a huge writer.
Oh, right. Okay. So
maybe not so similar.
You're able to do both sides. Now,
Yes.
I can do the other side if I use voice recognition. You see,
I
that's
will
the way I
say
get
this.
around it.
I will say this because I write novels. I used to journal. I have boxes of journals. Now I do vocal recordings. And it started when I would go into these channeling moments and I would get the keys to the universe handed to me and I would not remember it. I would come out of it and I'd be like,
annoying that not remembering aspect of these things, because I've experienced that quite a few times as well. And it's like, and you're right, audioing it is of immense value.
I've learned to just keep my phone near me. Sometimes it's actually distracting. And what I'll do is when I come out of the experience, if I can tell the times I should record and not, I will repeat back to myself, okay, what are the key concepts that just got communicated? And that really helps me to anchor it and ground it. Then there are times I can just tell it starts coming on. I can feel my vibration really rising and I'm like, just hit record. And 30 minutes later then it stops and I will re-listen to this message as if it's coming from someone else. It's quite amazing. And it's a wonderful tool for your own just growth.
It is. It's amazing.
There's a term that my wife uses. Of course, she has that background as a psychotherapist, so that's where this comes from. But for these situations where we have these contrast experiences, where we're doing some major expansion on them, she calls those FGOs. And what that stands for is friggin' growth opportunities. Of course, she used the other word, but nevertheless, that's what they add up to.
Wait, it's FGO. Say that one again.
Friggin' growth opportunities.
Growth.
Okay.
And the point is obviously to make the other person laugh because she's in a therapeutic when she's giving that kind of a definition. But it's also to help remind them, this is what comes along. This is what we're dealing with.
I think it's a great definition. It really puts it in your mind that it's not even a challenge. It's an opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
And it could be painful. The first word kind of really describes that.
It does very, very well.
Honestly, I've come to learn the more painful, the more I grow. And so instead of withdrawing from these painful experiences now, it's not like I'm going out looking for them, mind you. I don't want to misrepresent here. I love good feeling experiences. I think we all do.
Absolutely.
That's like the icing on the cake. It's not the cake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My mentor, Amy, many, many years ago said to me, Louis, and this sat in my mind forever. It's still sitting there a little bit. She said, Louis, don't look for truth in dustbins.
Don't look for truth in what?
In dustbins.
Dustbins, trash cans.
Trash bins.
It's all right.
And I started to realize many, many different things from all that. First of all, I knew I could pick up a trashy newspaper and still learn a truth out of it. So, and then, there's a lot of spiritual books I've read, like tons and millions. And you gain bits out of them.
Those are like trashy newspapers.
Yes. And I think the conclusion I came to at the end of it all was really about being sure of what I'm sure of.
Yes.
In other words, I can listen to anybody at any time in any place, and suddenly I'll go,
yeah, you have that aha moment. Yeah.
And the aha moment can really come from anybody, anywhere. And, the other times when you haven't got the ahas is when you're not focused on your expansion and growing and changing. So
right, you're not really in sync. You can have those aha moments going to a restaurant and the waitress says something to you at just the right time and you're like blown away. And if you're not in the right zone, you could go to a conference of your favorite spiritual teacher and be sitting there rolling your eyes going,
exactly.
I'm not connecting with any of that.
Exactly. And that's when you start understanding the law of attraction, because what you're doing mentally beforehand is you are setting the playing field of who, when, timing of everything that's going to come to you.
That's right.
So if you're setting the idea, it's another one of the spiritual teacher's talks again.
Right. That's all you're going to experience, right?
That's what you're going to get. So you realize
conference attendees who are all worshiping them and they're annoying you and you're not getting anything out of it.
Exactly. That's what you're going to get.
Yes.
And you really start saying, my gosh, I've got to take a lot of responsibility for how I pre-pave my day, my next hours, my next experience.
Yeah, setting the intentions. So on the mornings when I wake up, I've got my meditation room back here. And I love when I wake up early in the morning to write. I usually wake up at about 3:30 or 4 in the morning so that I can get in about 4 hours before my workday starts. And I light candles in there. And on the mornings, not every morning does this happen. Sometimes I wake up and it's like the wrong side of the bed. I just do not wake up in the best mood. And instead of using my meditation room to shift that energy, sometimes I will just overlook it completely. And my whole day will just kind of happen to me.
Right.
Meaning it's just I'm getting bombarded left and right. But on the days that I really sit down and take the time, which is most of the time, I set the intention for that day. It's magical how it will unfold. From the lady who does my at the cash register, she's wonderful to me. People holding doors open.
Absolutely.
I get an awesome email.
The smiles as you pass the people.
Oh, it's just it's absolutely magical. So
I remember driving there and looking up to this, these white vans who are usually annoying on the street here.
Right.
I looked up and this guy was beaming at me with his big eyes and huge smiles. Yes, this is so cool. Even white van people are smiling at me.
Or have you all ever had the experience you're having a thought and a truck or a billboard and there's words that go exactly with what you are thinking about?
I was looking in the rearview mirror many, many, many years ago, and it was a nice sunny day, and the light was shining beautifully on this guy behind me's front window, etc. And I was looking through my rearview mirror at him, and I said, gosh, this guy looks like somebody I really want to meet. And a few seconds later, bang, he hits me. We get out the car, and he's not happy to meet me at all.
That is manifestation power, Louie.
That's totally manifestation, but what I wanted and what he wanted was on a different page.
We're two different things.
Well, it's also a classic example of be careful what you wish for.
I know.
I've definitely learned to
I was shocked. You know what I was shocked
my
about?
words a little more clearly because of that wall. For sure.
You know what I was shocked about with that experience is that the guy didn't like me and he wasn't interested. That his focus was completely different to what I wanted to get to know the guy. He wanted not to get to know me at all.
So speaking of my birthday and setting intentions, every year I make what's called a master map. I've been doing this for 20 years. And my husband's parents are actually the ones that taught me to do this. And you sit down on your birthday and you write out what it is you intend to create, manifest for yourself that year. And over the years, I've gone a lot more general, because that's one thing I did learn from Abraham, is you can be very limiting. Your imagination is the only thing that can limit what your ability to manifest is. And so I learned if I went general and it went more for what I wanted to feel, whether it was around money, relationships, my career as a writer, if I stayed really general, it left it open to actually get more than what I could have imagined for myself with my limited beliefs. And I've been amazed, like over the last 5 years when I open these, because I open them on the following birthday, how much of it is just coming true.
Yeah,
the more general I've gotten, the more it has expanded the things that I'm able to manifest for myself.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit of a manifestation story for me that happened on the whole podcast. Was for years and years and years, I've always, let's say 2.5 years before the manifestation, I started thinking I'm going to test the law of attraction. Like I just discovered Abraham Hicks or whatever. And they said start with something small. Now I wasn't into cars, so I said, let me focus on Jaguars. I like Jaguar, and the reason I told Walton, you can look back at previous episodes, I said the reason I like Jaguar, and it was the truth, was simply because of a James Bond movie. There was a Jaguar in it, and just something that appealed to me. I loved James Bond movies when I was younger. So I focused on Jaguars, and, I struggled to see 2 or 3 Jaguars in my area, and I was like getting excited. Hey, I saw 2 Jaguars today. And then I started saying 5, and then 10, and then 20, and then hundreds. And then I started saying, no, I better start focusing on a specific type of Jaguar because there's just too many here. So I started focusing on the red Jaguar because that red Jaguar is beautiful. It's amazing color. So I was like, yeah, red Jaguar. And then I started seeing one red Jaguar, 2, and then suddenly my neighbors got them. Next, this guy's got them. The closest car to mine was a Jaguar. Okay, it was a black one, but I started getting to where I park it, and I started getting just Jaguars everywhere.
Yeah.
And I started getting red Jaguars everywhere. And I started thinking, I'm so good at manifesting red Jaguars. Now let me visualize having red Jaguars myself, having my own. And then I visualized it, and it wasn't long after that. I'd probably say it was 2 months after that. I was visualizing myself in the car, smelling it, enjoying it, driving it.
Nice.
And I wanted the sedan, and I wanted a certain shape and model, and I had measured my garage, so I knew, which one would fit in and which one wouldn't. So the Jaguar is 30 centimeters longer than my station wagon that I had. So it's a long vehicle. So I was like working all these things out, visualizing it. And my wife comes to me in the morning after doing night shift at work. And she says, hey, there's this place just down the road. Okay, it's about a half an hour drive. Who's selling a red Jaguar at a good price, and it's only 30,000 on the clock. It's fairly new. Wow. So I said, let's jump in the car and are you still awake enough so we can go pop down to have a look at it? So I drive down with the old station wagon, and as we're driving down, we're discussing finances and things like that, and everything's clear, before we even arrived. So I'm sitting down with the guy there, and had a quick look at the car. I really liked it. I was happy to take it. My wife and I were sitting there, and the guy was saying, what do you think? And I said, we're just going to have lunch quickly. And he was having a look at my old car, and he said, I'll give you £100 for it. And I said to him, I'll take that, because I knew the condition it was in and all the rest of it. And, we were ready for a new car, and I was happy with everything. So we went and had a little bit of a meal, and then when I got back into the car wouldn't go into gear. It was an automatic like the Americans used to. Put your foot on the brake, and you can't get it out of park,
Right.
It just wouldn't go out of park. So it's like, oh my God. And I said to them, okay, car, I still like you just for another hour. I still like you. Because I know I've done this with all my mobile phones before I understood the law of attraction. I broke my old ones to get the new one.
That's common.
It happened again and again and again.
Yes.
And it's a classic law of attraction error.
Right.
Yes.
Is needing to break something to get something new. And, you don't need to do that. You can have your cake and eat it.
Yes.
So I'm sitting there saying, I can have my cake for the next hour. Just get me back to the dealer. Just get me back to the dealer. So after trying it for about 100 times, the thing moved into drive, and yes,
you were like,
I went
yes.
to park the car, sat down. My wife and I both agreed during the lunch that we were going to take it. And
well, you had to take something. You didn't have a car that was going to work. You had to take something.
It continued to work after that, so I don't know what happened. So I was sitting down there, and I'm like, yawning. The guy's going through the finances, and I'm just sitting there, and he's like, what are you doing? I said, oh no, I'm just playing a game. So I turn my phone around, and he sees I'm actually playing a game. He says, you're very relaxed about this. I said, I know the car's mine. I've got no,
Right. There was no,
I know this
it
car
wasn't even
is
a surprise
mine.
to you.
No, it wasn't even a surprise. It was the next logical step. It was.
I love it.
Completely, absolutely as it should be. And everything fell in place. Doof, doof, doof. I sat there, and he was struggling with finances and getting onto the website and doing this and that. Sure. And I was like yawning and playing games. And everything went through smoothly, and poof, took the car home.
It's a really great position to be in when you know that you have this power, this ability as a human being. This is the field that we live in. And when you learn the law and you learn how to operate within it, the possibilities are endless.
You know what the Americans say, and I love it. It's a perfect word for what you just said. It's a game changer.
It's a game changer.
It's a game changer.
I say that all the time. It really is a game changer.
Understanding the law of attraction is completely a game changer.
It is.
And that's why I'm doing the podcast. I want people to understand. I want them to have this power of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Because until you learn this, you are not actually playing the game. You are really. You
are playing it, but you're playing with blindfolds on.
Or you're the puck, one or the other.
You keep getting sent back to, the start.
Right.
I know how to play this
jail.
game. I know how to play this game.
This is pinball, right? Boing, 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 boing.
Yeah, once you start learning how to master this, I tell people this you need to teach your children this.
Absolutely.
Something I started talking to my kid at a very young age. And then also living by example. So catching yourself, I would catch myself when I would start saying something that was very limiting. Oh, there's that belief that needs to be deleted off the hard drive. What's going on there with that? So through this process of eliminating my own limiting beliefs, the walls are just coming down where things just come to me much more fluidly now. Now I'm not as surprised when they do because I've learned how to work within this field of energy that we're in.
And if you're not that surprised, that means the gap between where you are and where you want to be is not so big.
No,
which
exactly.
means it can happen easily.
And it feels that to me is beyond happiness, which is very temporary. It's a feeling of peace because I know no matter what comes my way, because there's so many elements that I actually cannot control, but I can control my reaction, my emotions, and my thoughts. And therefore, first of all, I minimize how many negative things I actually interact with. And then the things that I do, I understand are a direct mirror to something that is there to help me grow. And so there's none of this fear or anxiety that a lot of people experience, as in they're in this uncontrolled, chaotic environment.
Which a lot of people live in, yeah.
Yeah, it to me, I really feel like I came in as a child. I didn't understand or have the terminology for it, but I just had that outlook. And so now as an adult, it really is, I can see, I'm so glad I started really paying attention to this as many years ago as I did, because it's taken me, 10, 15 years I haven't mastered it yet, but I can definitely feel I'm on my way to that mastery level with it. And it's fun.
So Amy, this is the thing that I've kind of got to now. I don't feel that I'm in control from the point of view that a lot of people would look at control.
Okay.
I'm in a place where I feel that I can more easily accept whatever the universe is next going to throw at me, which gives you a semblance of control, but there's an element of immense expansion and openness to unexpected and unusual and different and new things. So there's both elements to it there. You've got the element of, anything can be thrown at me, which I'm not in control of, but I know I can deal with it fairly well and quickly and easily and turn things around.
You're not trying to micromanage.
Yes.
Now that you know these laws, you're not trying to micromanage how things are going to be showing up in your reality. It's more like an exciting journey is. You want to be surprised and delighted, and you want to kind of get knocked off course once in a while. Let's see where it goes.
It's that great saying, let go and let God.
Yes.
And God can come in mysterious ways, all the kind of things that are kind of said in the Bible, but you now understand them from a very different angle.
Well, our imagination can almost be very limiting because if we don't allow this vast energetic field, the vortex, the stream, this field to deliver things to us, things that we cannot see and that we don't know, we're actually limiting ourselves a whole lot in that experience if we don't appreciate or look forward to. If we're micromanaging, because I used to be that type A, I need my checklist. So for me, this really is a blend of, I set my intentions, but then I let it unfold in a way that I'm not planning. And I really like that.
Well, strictly speaking,
you're a perfectionist? Or?
Strictly speaking, imagination is limiting, by the way.
It is.
That's the definition of what imagination
Right.
starts with this unlimited field and then puts limits in place in order to
Yes.
create different kinds of contrast and expansion. I mean, that's
As
what
imaginative as
for.
I am, I know that it can limit me, so I like
Well, it's supposed
letting
to.
that part go.
That's my point. My point is that's what imagination is designed to do.
Yeah.
It's by intention, and it's a good thing. It's a great
Yes.
thing that it does that.
Well,
We
the
often
more
think of
the
limits
limits,
as-
the more you become specific. The more specific you become,
Yeah.
the quicker and easier it is to manifest
Exactly.
that specific thing. So
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I had to learn at first, Louis, was I was trying to go specific too fast before I really had a hold on it. And so it would create this desire, this contrasting, oh, I can't have that. Then the more specific I would get, the less I could believe that I could have it.
Mhm.
And so therefore, for me, in the beginning, the more general I was, the more things could come to me. And now, where I am now, I can get more specific, and I really enjoy that too.
By the way,
Bumped
poor
into
Jeffrey has
somebody
been. Oh, go ahead, Louis, and then I'll follow you.
I bumped into somebody in the sauna, and he was telling
That
us that he
sauna.
was, he was telling us that he was a perfectionist, and he really started relating how he had to set out a whole lot of parameters for his daily task, and they all had to be ticked off for him to be happy.
Yes.
And I looked at him and I said to him, it just popped out of my mouth. I just said to him, isn't that exhausting?
It is exhausting. So that is actually a piece of my personality that is changing, is learning to kind of balance those two things. It gave me a sense of control. And basically, I always wanted, I was not happy unless this list was completed every day. And as I've been progressing, these are just intentions. Whatever's meant to happen is going to happen. They're a little guiding tool, but I no longer define even my happiness around doing things. It's more just what state of being am I in?
Get happy, and then the right people come at the right time, at the right place, saying the right things with the right vibration, and everything goes so much smoother. So much smoother. But that requires a level of trust in source.
Ah, beautiful word.
Trust
is the key to it all. Trust is the key to it all, because the more you trust, the less you need to micromanage. You know that you're not the one trying to orchestrate it all.
But you don't have to blindly trust either.
No.
You can test the law of attraction.
You should.
Many different shapes
Experiment.
and different forms.
Yes.
Start with something like a pencil or something really, really, really
and
simple.
then work your way up to a jaguar.
Exactly. And then you can go further and further and further and further and further. There's no limit.
Well, I trust
No, there isn't.
I trust that you guys will appreciate a good segue, because poor Jeffrey, who's one of our most loyal listeners, asked a question about 40 minutes ago, and I'm
Oh, sorry,
trying
Jeffrey.
So you
I'll
have
get a
to
word
kind
in
of,
edgeways today, Jeff.
it's not, I can't get in, Jeffrey, so you're not alone. But, but seriously, he was, referring to an early part of the conversation where we were talking about, how the law of attraction plays such an important major role. And he asked an interesting question. I think you guys are going to probably spend the rest of the show on it, but it's okay. The question he asked is there a law of repulsion? And he says, think of a magnet flipping. What do you think?
A law of repulsion.
Well, isn't the law of repulsion the law of attraction in reverse?
That's what I was going to say as well. Go for it, Louis.
It just sounds cool, doesn't it?
Write that one down. It sounds like a book to me. I mean,
that's
geez.
exactly what I was thinking. It's just the reverse, but it's the same law, really.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are confused as to the law of attraction point of view. And the law of attraction point of is attracting thoughts that you put out. It's not attracting necessarily anything that's in your life at the moment, unless that's what your thoughts are on where you are currently. So I brought this up with Walt on a previous podcast, but I don't think you're on it, Amy, so I'll bring it up again.
Okay.
A teacher visualizes in his mind that he wants students. So the teacher, albeit a teacher, is not wanting more teachers. The teacher is sitting there in their mind, not always, sometimes they do want teachers as well, but then they're not looking for a teacher, they're now looking, not looking for students, they're looking for teachers. But often a teacher is sitting there, and in their mind, they're visualizing groups of students and people that will appreciate their message, and they want to attract people that are on a similar vibration or can get, or this is what really happens, is you're attracting people that are maybe just a little bit lower on the vibrational scale,
Okay.
and you're going to take them just that little bit further. That's what Abram chooses. When they look into the audience, they say they're looking out there, and they choose people who are got a question, but they're not far from the answer.
Right.
That's the way they choose. They look around and they say, oh, they got a question, and they're not too far from the answer, bring them up, and then they talk. And that's why the conversations that they have on that hot seat are not that difficult for them, because they're taking you from a place where you've got a question, and they can see before you even come up that you're not too far from the answer, and they can play with that. So
it's kind of reassuring that non-physical is actually into cherry picking. They take the easy route. I like that.
It is. That's the way it works, Because
Yes.
if you understand the emotional guidance scale, you understand that it's much easier to go from revenge to rage than it is from
That's
revenge
right.
to happiness.
That's right.
It's just,
You have to climb that ladder. You're not going to go, like I said, being depressed is a much lower frequency than getting angry about something. But you're not just going to go from being depressed to being happy. And that's where people will get very discouraged, is they think they need to make these giant leaps in their emotions. And it just doesn't work that way. But as you go up the ladder, the next one up is easier to get a hold of.
so I'm just trying to play with this concept of a magnet. So
Yeah, repulsion.
a magnet is based around thought, isn't it?
Well, ultimately.
Ultimately, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So a magnet's desire is to push away. Let's say if it's got the two
north
appropriate
ends, or the
ends.
two
Right.
south ends, yeah.
So it's man and non-physical and physical thought up the idea of a magnet, and then they thought up the idea that this side, if it's close to another one of those, and the other side, they're going to push away from each other. So, what it is just a thought that's gone out that has attracted more of the energy of the magnet, and it's still attracting, but it's attracting with a result that we
The
would
opposite.
consider is repulsion. So it isn't
It's
actually
polarized.
doing anything. It isn't doing anything that it's not designed to do, and it's not doing anything that's not attracting from a
Right.
non-physical perspective.
I see it as it's polarized. So it's pushing against or going in the opposite direction rather than coming together. So
Because when I
there's,
studied the energy of the body, they kept on telling me the energy is the opposite way around to what the physical body sees. And I was like, what? You're really confusing me now. What
right.
does this mean? So energetically, if I want to work on the left, if something's on the left-hand side, I've often got to work on the right-hand side. And I've started to see that on my own body when I'm working with Jinshin Jitsu and the energy is, when the right hip is hurting, you go to the left shoulder, and that'll help it. And
Isn't that interesting?
You start seeing that there's a whole lot of opposites that are happening, going on. And when you start working with a flow that you're trying to heal something on one side, you might work on the other side. And
Yes.
you start like, oh my gosh.
To create that balance.
The energetic world is very opposite because it is the non-manifested yet. So
Yes.
it's still got to come into the physical. And once it comes into the physical, it goes through different conversions. And I know I'm not making a huge amount of sense because it's not 100%
Sure you are.
clear in my mind, but I'm starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together when it comes to all this.
It's actually refreshing because usually you are just crystal clear. For you to come out with something that's not crystal clear is almost mind-blowing.
Well, if I wasn't, Walt, I wouldn't be expanding.
I was just getting ready to say that, Louie. You literally took the words right out of my mouth. Love
That's a
it.
good thing, though. That's great. I love that, too. Hey, I want to also make sure, because this may be the last time I get a word in for the next 10 minutes of the show, the last 10 minutes of the show, but I want to make sure I get in here that, this is why we have the show. This is really high vibe, high energy stuff, and it's why we want you to be a regular listener. Now, of course, the current way, and actually the future way to be a current listener and to continue to get this stuff is, drum roll please. I don't hear the drum roll. There's something wrong. Okay, well, we'll go without the drum roll. But anyway, imagine a drum roll going on right now. And while you're hearing the drum roll, download the LOA Today app because it's available on both iPhones and Androids. And that basically covers like 95% of the device universe. So you don't have no more excuses. This is where you can actually get 5 days of your daily dose of happy. And that's all I want to encourage people to do. Well, that's not all, actually. There is another thing I want people to do. I want people to share like Chuck did. Chuck shared with Amy. Amy found the show. Tell a friend to tell a friend. The more that we do that, the more people get their daily dose of happy. The more people get their daily dose of happy, the more they find out what Louie's been trying to, basically begging to tell them for weeks and months and years now. And he's finally going to get that manifestation done, and then he's going to be expanding to God knows what. And it's going to be great to watch.
I've had lots of friends give me feedback. They're really enjoying my friends that, I've introduced to the podcast because I'm posting it everywhere. And I love the app, by the way. Well, it works beautifully, and I love it because I can use it when I go out walking, working out, grocery shopping. And what I especially love about it, especially right now, is it allows me, if I start going out of alignment, which can happen with the mask on.
Nah.
Yep. Oh yeah, it can happen. It really helps while I'm out running errands to plug in and to listen to the podcast. So I love the app for that reason.
It's funny too, because you can have this app, you can have this show available to you, and yet it's easy to forget to listen to it. And the best example I can give is my wife. I had to remind her. She was asking me lately, what can I do? I need to do some things to really pick myself up. I said, well, you could try listening to the podcast. She says, oh my God, why didn't I think of that?
I love it. I'm listening to every new one that comes out. And like I said before, I love the diversity of the topics. They're always really interesting and something fun, whether it's fun or thought provoking. I really enjoyed the stream. And like I said, Louie's question, I was like, well, he just went right there. I love it. I really enjoyed the answer.
I took a note from Abraham's playbook because Abraham says, we know what all the questions are in advance, and they're all going to add up to the same answer. It's always going to be the same answer every time. And we're kind of similar. It's always the same topic. Yes. Every single day, it's the same topic, but they're always different every single time.
Because there's so many different ways and perspectives and because
everybody's coming from their own point of view, and everybody's got a different one. So, yeah. But, Walt, I wanted to point something out to you.
What's that?
Once you have converted your spouse, that's a terrible word. Once you have got your spouse to really appreciate what you are sharing and enjoying, and they come to really like it, it's a game changer for your own belief.
Oh, yes.
It's a game changer for your own belief.
It's true. Well, it's also going to be a little bit different in that she already buys into what we're doing on the show. She's making the point through her actions of having forgotten to listen, even though she knows it's a show she likes.
Right.
And that happens a lot.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. People, well, yeah, I heard that show. It was great. And then they stop without remembering, oh yeah, that's actually a good activity for me to do every day. There's so many
distractions.
Sure.
And it's finding right now, I'm finding myself becoming a lot more selective about what I put my focus on. And the podcast is definitely one of them. I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Which I very much appreciate. And I appreciate that with all of we have a real loyal crew of listeners that keeps growing. So I can't express often enough how appreciative I am that our audience does keep coming back for more.
Absolutely. And I'd love to hear more questions, people, when they submit them.
I tell you, that's going to start happening.
A cork in it.
It's going to start happening really soon. Like I was telling you guys just before we got started today, I'm glad that you love the app. A lot of people love the app. I really am glad about that. There are a couple things I'm trying to nail down to just make it really, really stable right now, including getting Dan Mangana's stuff in, because that's not in the version that most people have. It's sort of getting there, but it's not quite there. A few more days and it'll be there. And then once it's there, then I'm going to do some real strong promotion, particularly encouraging people to come on board to listen to the stream. And my come on is, have you ever wanted to ask Abraham a question, but not sure that you were actually going to get an answer? Well, now you can get an answer. And
it's a great hook.
and that's what I hooked. I told you guys earlier, I accidentally ran an ad campaign for 3 hours that I wasn't intending to run just yet. I was setting it up and got 8 clicks for less than $1. And that told me, yeah, this is a powerful hook. This is a great hook. So it's going to be happening really soon. I'm kind of giving you advance warning is what I'm doing.
Oh yeah, I think it's fantastic.
I'm telling you, these questions are going to be coming hot and heavy in a relatively short period of time. So, I guess it falls under the category of, once again, be careful what you wish for because it'll
Get
happen.
ready, folks.
Get ready.
I've really enjoyed listening to this stream because I was ready for something new. And I loved listening to Abraham for so many years, and I still do whenever I get the opportunity. But it's really nice to hear a new perspective coming through a new channel.
It is fun. It's great. I don't even know if I want to be asking a whole lot of questions. I know that I will ask questions as they kind of come to me, as they feel good to ask. But mainly, I'm just looking forward to hearing other people's questions being answered.
Yeah, I'm really trying to think of what I would ask. I'm going to think about that because I would love to actually participate at least on one show.
Absolutely. You're welcome to. I invite
Okay,
you to. I invite all of my co-hosts to come onto the show and ask their questions. And by the way, that's a great point. I also invite listeners, send in your questions. Hey, I actually included a contact method in the app. If you can't get some people are having trouble making that one work, so we're going to put it in a form instead. But if you're having trouble with that, just send me an email, walt@loatoday.net, and tell me, here's a question for the stream. And guess what? I'll ask it.
There you go.
Well, Walt, is the app live?
The app is live, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's working. It works just fine right now.
What I meant is, while we're speaking right now, it's.
Oh, live streaming is not built in yet. No.
Oh, okay.
That's probably version 2.0. We're on version 1.19 right now or something.
So
like
that can be done.
Well, it can be done. Yes, it's a lot of work, and it probably won't happen in the next month or so because I need a break.
Time.
Well, I've been going at this pretty hard and heavy, and I need a break.
You do.
I just need a break.
Glowing
that's all.
with just what you've accomplished.
Yeah, I got to celebrate it for a bit. Sit back and
enjoy
it.
that.
Right. So I want to get the M. Manganus stuff on there, and I want to get the new contact form on there, and I'm really, really close on those. And then once I've got those on there, then it's just run some advertising for a while and just do lots of shows and just enjoy it for a while.
So, Walter, a listener might say, the live one which you just had now, how long will it take to go onto the app? On average.
It's always hard to predict whenever you're doing programming, because programming. I mean, I thought I was going to launch this app a month and a half ago. Well,
no, what I meant is we just finished this one. It's not on the app yet. How long does it take to get
how long does it take a recording to get on?
From here. Yeah.
Oh, it's usually an hour or two. It's not that long.
It shows up pretty quickly.
Yeah. There was actually a glitch with the very, very early version of the app in that it wasn't updating quickly. It was updating on a 12-hour cycle, but I found out how to fix that. So
Great.
It's almost instantaneous now, which is good. Yeah. As soon as we publish it, you get it. So
cool.
All right. Well, then I think that pretty much draws to a close. Any last comments? I mean, you guys pretty much covered everything.
It was just a vortex of awesome.
Oh, my goodness.
I
was ready to take a coffee break. All I had to do was just wind you guys up, and I could have been gone, get some bookkeeping done.
Winding us up. I don't know if I like that.
I know. I don't know if I need to be any more wound.
Well, okay. Maybe we need a new analogy here.
But I call it Monday Magic Momentum. That's the
good.
name for me. I love it. It's just a great way to kick off the week with you guys.
I think I just like to kind of, tweak it a little bit and have a little fun with people, but that's just me.
Oh, I love it.
Anyway, thank you guys very much. We appreciate your contributions so much. I mean, you guys, seriously, I was making fun, but you guys were just wild with energy.
That was fun.
Really, really good. And thank you also very much to our podcast listeners as well, because without you, we wouldn't have a podcast. And with you, we have a great podcast. So thank you for being the co-creators along with us. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Take care, everyone.